Hey, good morning and welcome back to Central Ontario. It's another gorgeous day here, and we got a lot going on in the outdoors at GP's place. I got to get the grass cut and trimmed. I already have the sea-dew in the water for the kids, so that's done. I got another big cherry tree on the back of the driveway, which I want to just get down before it falls. And some of you probably noticed I have another pile of gravel, and that's for the back driveway. We just keep getting a lot of rain, and I need a bit of a dry period so I can finally grade it and finish it off once and for all and get her done. And today we're going to put this chipper through a few more tests as I promised. So grab a coffee if you'd like, get comfortable. Love for you to hang around for the day, and let's get at it. Cheers. Before we begin the test today, I had a couple of subscribers that asked a few questions about the build, as well as one had asked if I could open up the housing to the rotor. So the top link bracket is 3/8 of an inch steel. The main unit itself, footings, the structure itself is 3/16, and the chute is made out of 1/8 plate. Unit itself weighs 425 pounds, so it's a pretty sturdy unit. It also came with the PTO shaft, and what I thought was kind of nice, for the first time I bought an implement, it actually came with the link pins, as well as the PTO shaft came with both chains for both ends. So, you know, small thing, but it's kind of nice that you spend money and you buy a unit, you want the whole unit. The PTO shaft was a little bit longer than I needed because I think this unit is used on larger tractors as well as my size tractor. So it was a pretty simple adjustment to open up the PTO shaft and cut off 5 inches off of both pieces, put them back together, and she fit and worked just fine. Okay, not sure if you can see it because of the sun, but the chute's got a big rubber flap that's bolted in about 10 inches down, and I'm assuming that's for safety. So let's open up the housing and take a look inside. Opens with one simple bolt here. What I also liked about this unit is the nut on the other side is actually welded in, so you don't have to worry about being out in the forest, taking the bolt open to open it up and then losing the nut. And here's your rotor. Okay, so on this side, I guess it's got its fan blades. And of course on this side is where your cutting edge protrudes. Each of these blades are held in by 4 bolts and they're reversible. Your stationary blade is down at the bottom and it's bolted in. And I've also noticed that anywhere you need to grease the unit, there are grease zerks. Okay, so I hope that little walk around was helpful for those that were asking. It's time to test this thing out. I was going to take you out in the forest with me, but because of the sunshine and the shade in there, I think it'd be better if I grapple up some of those branches and bring them out here in the sun. That way, hopefully, you can see things a lot clearer. So let's grab some branches, let's separate them out, and let's get this test underway. Cheers. Ready to go. Just so you know, I've got balsam, birch, and I've got some maple in here. I also have the pile separated, so I've got, you know, less than 2 inches here, 2 to 3 inch diameter there, 3 to 4 there, and I have one big 4-inch branch. So I think we're going to take this through. I'm not going to separate it by type of wood, I just want to separate it by size to see how the tractor performs as well as the unit. And keep in mind that whenever you look, if you've already started doing some work online, you'll see that when you look at wood chippers, they usually have a very wide horsepower range. So, you know, you'll see a chipper, a 4-inch or 6-inch or 8-inch or 10-inch chipper, and it'll say it's good for a tractor from 25 horse to 60 horse. And somewhere in there, there's usually a little chart, and it'll tell you that your maximum performance or the maximum diameter reach occurs at X horsepower. So for this particular unit, I've only got a 19.5 horsepower on the PTO, which means I am not expecting it to chip 4-inch chips, because I'm pretty sure that the maximum PTO reached on this unit is a little higher. So I'm still going to try to feed it through, see what happens, and let's take it from here. All right, so fingers crossed. Let's give her test number 2. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. I'll try to get this under here for you, but you can see the shear belt broke, which it did its job, which is good. So I've got another shear bolt thrower back on there and get this thing back underway. Okay, so it looks like this was the culprit. When this guy went in, you probably saw that there was a limb coming off of the side, and it must have somehow got in there and jammed sideways, because it looks like the chipper tried to take it, the whole 6 inches of it, sideways, as well as almost 4 inches in the other measurement. So shear pin did its job, quick fix, quick change, and we're going to get back at it. We're going to do the 3 to 3.5 to 4 inch, and then we're going to do the big 4 inch. I think we've reached the maximum capacity of my tractor. That's the 3rd shear bolt I've gone through. However, I got to about 3 3/4 in diameter, which is pretty good, because the rating on this unit says that in order to get to 4 inches, you need at least 30 horsepower on the PTO. So with 19.5, I'm doing 3.5, just over 3. I'm pretty happy with that, because honestly up here, anything bigger than 3.5, 4 inches, and it's going on the firewood pile to burn for heat in the wintertime, we don't discard it or get rid of it. So I'm pretty sure that I don't need anything bigger than 3, 3.5 to shred. So let's take a look at the output of these chips. Okay, so here's the output of that chipper. As you know, we did cherry wood the other night. Really loved the chips there. They came out really nice. This is a mix of maple, birch, and balsam, I believe, from the back forest. Some of the wood had been sitting there for a long time. Some of it was only there for a few weeks. And I'm really happy with the quality of these chips. There's some really nice chips in there. I like the job it does. It chips them really well. And this is going to make for some great mulch around the side of my house. So let me clean this up a little bit, and I'll meet you back on the porch. Okay, so I wanted to put together some stats. I hope you guys don't mind the clipboard, but I didn't want to try to remember all this on a video. But I did take a look over the last week, week and a half at different available options to me here in Ontario, Canada. Didn't look at everything across, you know, the U.S. or Europe, etc., because I certainly have no interest in paying for shipping and duties and custom and those kind of things. But generally speaking, in addition to this BECO unit that's sold by Farmer, I found 4 other units, 5 if I wanted to pay for customs and duty, but basically 4 other units in Ontario that were reasonably similar. One similar size had a 3.5 inch capacity, the other one had a 6 inch, and the other 2 were 4 inch. So, which is the same as this unit here. They all basically have shear bolt protection. They've got 4 blades. They're all reversible. They have a stationary blade. They are self-feeding. 2 of them were hydraulic, and the price difference between a self-feeding unit and a hydraulic unit is a pretty steep jump, just so you know, and you'll see that when you do your research for yourself. And as you can see from this unit, I've used it twice now. It took everything up to 3 1/4 inch, and it self-feeds itself. You know, from my perspective, I don't need hydraulics on a 4-inch chipper. It seems like it's a little overkill. They go in pretty good on their own, and that thing self-feeds pretty well, as you saw yourself. From the discharge chutes, some of them only had 270-degree rotation, and only 2 of them had 360-degree rotation, similar to this one. The weight went anywhere from 395 pounds up to 595 pounds. This one here is 425, and as you can see, it's a pretty stable, steady unit as you feed the wood through. The big thing I wanted to focus on, though, is as you look across the different chippers that are available online, you'll see there's a number of different, you know, statistics or its capabilities, and along with that, it'll tell you that the chipper, for example, is a 4-inch chipper or a 6-inch chipper, and it works with tractors between X horsepower and Y horsepower. And then somewhere in a chart you'll see it'll say, you know, here's the weight, here's the size of the rotor, and then it'll tell you the necessary PTO horsepower needed in order to drive it to its maximum capacity. So in this case, with the BECO unit, the maximum capacity is a 4-inch diameter branch. And in order to reach that capacity, you need 30 horsepower on the PTO. And that's not at all unsimilar. The 6-inch needs 40 horsepower. This other model for a 4-inch chipper required 50 horsepower on the PTO. And the next model, which was a 3.5-inch chipper, required 25 horsepower or 27 horsepower on the PTO. So as you can see, the chippers are made, and they're generally like 4-inch, 6-inch, 10-inch. But when you go into the details, they require different types of horsepower in order to drive them to their maximum capacity. So important to look at that. So I think, as we saw today, I blew 3 shear bolts on that unit, and it wasn't until I got into 3.5-inch branches that it started to blow. So I'm thinking that, you know, not knowing anything else, I've got a 19.5 horsepower on that tractor, and I'm assuming that that horsepower, you know, based on the stats, which require 30 to get to 4 inches, I'm probably maxing out at that 3 1/4, because I was able to cut everything up to 3 1/4 without a problem. As soon as I got into that 3.5 and beyond, that's when the shear bolt started to snap. So really pleased to have it, and very pleased to have a few extra shear bolts, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, that unit, I love that unit. Quite honestly, for us up here, anything bigger than 3.5 inches, 4 inches, we're putting on the firewood pile and we're burning it for heat. We're certainly not discarding it as debris or trying to chip it. So if that thing is consistently giving me branches up to 3 1/4, I'm happy with that, especially on that tractor. It sits stable. I like the unit. Again, as you know, I'm not an expert on the implements, certainly not an expert on wood chippers. I've not tried any other wood chippers. But what I will tell you is that that unit performs. It has a 2-year warranty, and it's a very reasonably priced chipper, and I think it's going to do great for me on this property. My challenge here, of course, is I didn't have a budget for another implement this year, so now I got to figure out whether or not I'm going to try to keep this unit and buy it, or if I'm going to take it back and give it back to Dave and Kevin. Okay, well, I think that wraps up the review. I hope it's been helpful for folks. As I said, from my perspective, I love that chipper. I think it's the right unit for my property and my needs. I don't need to chip anything bigger than 3 1/4, and that tractor seems to handle it just fine, as does the chipper. It's simple, it works, it produces great chips. You know, similar to yourself, I've bought a lot of wood chips and mulch from nurseries over the years, and that is some really good chip. The quality of that chip is great. For you at home, I hope it's been helpful. If you're in the market for a chipper, I hope that this has at least provided you some information or an idea of how they work or things to look at as you do your research. And I really appreciate you sticking around. Dave and Kevin at Farmer Equipment, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to test this thing out. I love it. If you like the channel, please hit subscribe, hit the like button, and if you want to know when I'm posting videos, just hit that little bell. Have a great week. We'll see you again. Cheers.